Patrick Matthews stood in the rain outside the concert venue, his hand trembling as he held the ticket that had cost him 3 months of careful saving. Watching a woman in designer heels crumple against the brick wall and sob into her hands. The downpour had started 20 minutes ago, turning the September evening into a waterlogged mess. Patrick's worn leather jacket did little to keep him dry, but he barely noticed. His attention was fixed on the woman who'd just been turned away from the entrance, her own ticket apparently a sophisticated fake that someone had sold her online. Security had been apologetic but firm. No entry. Patrick knew he should walk past her, get inside, enjoy the concert. His daughter Mia was with his mother for the evening, a rare treat that gave him this one night to himself. The band playing tonight, Silver Echo, had been his favorite for years. Their music had gotten him through his wife's death 3 years ago, through the sleepless nights and the overwhelming responsibility of raising a 7-year-old daughter alone while working double shifts at the garage. But something about the woman's devastation stopped him. She wasn't crying for attention. Her shoulders shook with genuine grief, her expensive clothes now soaked through, mascara running down her cheeks. She looked utterly broken. "Hey," Patrick said, approaching carefully. "You okay?" The woman looked up, and even with smudged makeup and red eyes, she was stunning. Late 20s, maybe 30, with auburn hair plastered to her face and green eyes that held an ocean of disappointment. "Do I look okay?" she snapped, then immediately softened. "Sorry, no, I'm not okay. I just flew back from Singapore this morning specifically for this concert. I've been traveling for work for 6 months straight, and this was supposed to be my one night to just breathe and enjoy something I love, and some jerk sold me a fake ticket for $800. Patrick whistled low. 800? These tickets were only $150 retail. "I know that now," she laughed bitterly. "I was desperate. They sold out in minutes, and I was out of the country when they went on sale. I thought I was being careful, checking the seller's reviews and everything. Apparently, I'm an idiot." "You're not an idiot. You just wanted something badly enough that someone saw an opportunity to take advantage." Patrick shifted his weight, the ticket feeling heavy in his pocket. He thought of Mia, of how she'd been so excited for him this morning. "Daddy's going to have fun tonight," she'd said, kissing his cheek before school. He thought of the long hours he'd worked, the overtime shifts, the careful budgeting. This ticket represented sacrifice. It represented one evening of joy in a life that was mostly responsibility and exhaustion. But looking at this woman, he saw something he recognized. Not just disappointment, but a kind of bone-deep weariness that went beyond a ruined evening. He'd seen it in his own mirror often enough. "Here," Patrick said, pulling out his ticket before he could talk himself out of it. The woman stared at him, confusion replacing her tears. "What? Take my ticket? Are you insane?" "No, absolutely not. Look, you flew halfway around the world for this. You paid $800 because you needed this night that badly, I get it. I love this band too, but I'll catch them next time they're in town." Next time. They announce this is their last tour before they go on indefinite hiatus. There might not be a next time. She pushed his hand away. "I can't take your ticket, that's crazy." Patrick smiled, surprising himself. When had he last done something genuinely impulsive? "Maybe I'm due for a little crazy. Take it, please." The woman searched his face, her green eyes drilling into him like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." "Maybe that's exactly why I can do it." No expectations, no strings. Just one person helping another person have a good night. God knows we could all use more of those. She took the ticket slowly, her fingers brushing his. Even that brief contact sent an unexpected jolt through him. "I don't know what to say." "Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "Then don't say anything. Just go enjoy the show. They usually open with Fractured Light. It's going to be incredible." The woman clutched the ticket to her chest, then suddenly grabbed a business card from her purse. "Here, please. Let me repay you somehow. Dinner, or I can get you tickets to something else, or just straight cash if that helps more. I'm Georgia, by the way, Georgia Reynolds." Patrick took the card, more out of politeness than any intention of using it. Patrick Matthews, and you don't need to repay me. I want to, please. Don't throw that card away. Georgia, a security guard called from the entrance. You coming or not? Show starts in 10 minutes. Georgia looked between Patrick and the entrance, torn. Finally, she squeezed his hand. Thank you, Patrick Matthews, I won't forget this. Then she was gone, running toward the entrance, and Patrick was standing alone in the rain, wondering what the hell he'd just done. The concert started, the muffled sound of the opening notes drifting through the venue walls, and Patrick turned to walk back to his truck. His jacket completely soaked through, his evening suddenly very empty. The drive home took 40 minutes. He lived in a small rental house in a modest neighborhood, the kind of place where kids rode bikes in the street and neighbors actually knew each other's names. His mother's car was still in the driveway when he pulled up, which meant Mia was probably still awake, fighting bedtime like she did every night. Patrick? His mother, Susan, looked surprised when he walked in. What are you doing home? The concert should still be going. Mia came running from her bedroom, her dark curls bouncing, wearing her favorite unicorn pajamas. Daddy, did the music get canceled? Patrick scooped her up, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. At 7, she was getting too big to carry easily, but he never wanted to stop. No, baby, I just decided to come home early, wanted to see my favorite girl. But you were so excited, Susan said, her brow furrowed with concern. You've been talking about this concert for months. Change of plans. No big deal. Patrick set Mia down. Did you brush your teeth, troublemaker? Yes, Grandma checked. Can we read 2 stories tonight since you're home? We can read 3 stories if you want. Mia cheered and ran back to her room to pick out books. Susan waited until she was out of earshot. What happened? Nothing bad. I just gave my ticket to someone who needed it more than me. Patrick. Susan's voice held that mixture of exasperation and affection that only a mother could master. You saved for months for that ticket. I know, but Mom, you should have seen this woman. She was devastated. Sometimes you just have to do something decent, you know? Susan studied him for a long moment, then smiled. Your father would have done the same thing. You've got his heart. She kissed his cheek. I'll head out then. Mia already ate dinner and had her bath. She's been an angel, as always. After his mother left, Patrick spent the next hour reading stories to Mia, doing all the character voices she loved, making her giggle until she finally drifted off to sleep. He sat on the edge of her bed for a while, watching her breathe, overwhelmed as always by the fierce love he felt for this little person who depended on him for everything. His wife, Amy, had died in a car accident when Mia was 4. One moment, Patrick had a partner, a co-parent, a person to share the burden with. The next moment he was alone, drowning in grief and responsibility, trying to figure out how to be both mother and father to a preschooler who kept asking when Mommy was coming home. He'd managed. Barely, some days, but he'd managed. He worked as a mechanic at a local garage, taking on extra jobs on weekends when he could arrange childcare. Money was always tight. There were no vacations, no fancy dinners, no new clothes unless Mia needed them. But they had enough. They had each other. That was what mattered. As Patrick got ready for bed in his own small room, he found the business card Georgia had given him. It was elegant, expensive card stock with embossed lettering. Georgia Reynolds, CEO, Reynolds International Holdings. There was a phone number and an email address, CEO. Of course she was. Patrick almost laughed. He'd given his concert ticket to a CEO, someone who probably made in a month what he made in several years. She'd offered to repay him with dinner or more tickets or cash, but the gulf between their worlds suddenly seemed vast and unbridgeable. He set the card on his dresser and forgot about it. 2 days later, Patrick was under the hood of a Toyota Camry, his hands covered in grease, when his boss, Jerry, called him into the office. Got a weird call for you, Jerry said, scratching his bald head. Some woman named Georgia Reynolds. Says she's been trying to reach you, but your phone is disconnected. Patrick winced. Yeah, he'd had to cut his cell phone service last month when Mia needed new shoes and her school pictures were due. He'd been planning to reconnect at next paycheck. What did she want? Wouldn't say. Just left a number and said it was important. Who is she? She sounded like money. Just someone I helped out the other night. It's nothing. But curiosity nagged at him throughout the day. When his shift ended, he used the garage phone to call the number Jerry had written down. Georgia answered on the second ring. Hello. Hi, it's Patrick. Patrick Matthews, you called my work? Patrick, thank you for calling back. I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. Your cell phone wasn't working. Yeah, temporarily out of service. What can I do for you? There was a pause. I wanted to thank you properly. The concert was amazing. Actually, it was more than amazing. It was exactly what I needed. I can't stop thinking about what you did, giving up your ticket like that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Would you have dinner with me, please? I know I said I'd repay you, but it's more than that. I'd really like to get to know you better. Patrick's heart did something complicated in his chest. Georgia, that's nice of you, but you don't need to do that. I want to, please. I owe you at least a meal. He shouldn't say yes. She was a CEO. He was a mechanic. She wore designer clothes. He shopped at thrift stores. This was ridiculous. But there was something in her voice, a genuine warmth that made him want to say yes more than he'd wanted anything in a long time that wasn't directly related to Mia's well-being. Okay, he heard himself say. Dinner sounds nice. They made plans for Friday night. Patrick would have to ask his mother to watch Mia, but that wouldn't be a problem. The bigger problem was figuring out what to wear and how to afford a restaurant that someone like Georgia would find acceptable. When Friday arrived, Patrick was a bundle of nerves. He'd bought a new shirt, which he couldn't really afford, but his nicest one had a stain that wouldn't come out. He'd told Mia he was having dinner with a friend, which wasn't technically a lie. Is your friend a girl? Mia asked with a 7-year-old suspicious intuition. Just someone I met the other night. Do you like her? I barely know her, Bug. But do you think she's pretty? Patrick thought of Georgia's green eyes, even full of tears and smudged makeup. Yeah, she's pretty. Mia considered this seriously. Okay, you can go, but if you marry her, I get to be in the wedding. Whoa, slow down there. It's just dinner. And who said anything about getting married? That's what happens when daddies go to dinner with pretty girls. Emma at school told me. Her dad went to dinner with a pretty girl, and now she has a stepmom. Patrick knelt down to Mia's level. Baby, I'm just having dinner with a friend, that's all. Nothing is changing, okay? You're still my #1 girl. Mia hugged him tight. Promise? Promise. When his mother arrived, she gave him a knowing look, but didn't comment on his new shirt or the cologne he'd borrowed from Jerry. Patrick drove to the restaurant Georgia had suggested, his truck making concerning noises that he'd been too busy to properly diagnose. He probably needed new brake pads. That would be next month's tight budget then. The restaurant was nicer than anywhere Patrick had been since before Amy died. Nothing ostentatious, but definitely upscale. His truck looked out of place in the parking lot next to the BMWs and Mercedes. Georgia was already there, waiting at a table by the window. She stood when she saw him, and Patrick's breath caught. She wore a simple green dress that matched her eyes, her auburn hair falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked radiant and successful and completely out of his league. Patrick, she said, her face lighting up with a genuine smile. Thank you for coming. Thanks for the invitation. He sat across from her, trying not to feel self-conscious about his calloused hands and the permanent oil stains under his fingernails that no amount of scrubbing ever quite removed. You look nice, Georgia said. So do you. They ordered wine, though Patrick only had 1 glass since he was driving. Georgia asked him questions about his work, his life, seeming genuinely interested when he talked about the garage and the satisfaction of diagnosing a tricky mechanical problem. He asked about her work, and she explained that she'd inherited her father's investment company 5 years ago and had been working herself to death ever since, expanding into international markets. That's why I was in Singapore, she said. I've been opening offices across Asia. It's been successful but exhausting. I haven't had a personal life in years. That concert was supposed to be my first night off in 6 months. I'm glad you got to enjoy it then. It was perfect. They played all my favorite songs. I cried during Weathered Storm. That song always destroys me. Me too, Patrick admitted. I listened to that album on repeat after my wife died. Something about the lyrics about surviving when you think you can't made sense when nothing else did. Georgia's expression softened. You're a widower? 3 years now. Car accident. She was driving home from the grocery store and someone ran a red light. Patrick took a sip of wine, surprised at how easy it was to talk to her. I have a daughter, Mia. She's 7. She's the reason I get up every morning. She's lucky to have you as a father. I'm lucky to have her. She saved my life, really. After Amy died, I wanted to give up on everything, but Mia needed me, so I couldn't. She forced me to keep going, keep trying, keep living. They talked through dinner, the conversation flowing naturally. Georgia told him about losing her own mother to cancer when she was in college, about the pressure of taking over her father's company, about the loneliness of being at the top. Patrick found himself sharing things he rarely talked about with anyone, the fear that he wasn't doing enough for Mia, the guilt that she was growing up without a mother, the constant worry about money and the future. You're doing an amazing job, Georgia said firmly. Single parenting is the hardest job in the world, and you're clearly devoted to your daughter. She's going to remember that. She's going to remember that her dad showed up for her every single day. I hope so. I just want her to be happy and feel loved. She will, trust me. When the check came, Georgia grabbed it before Patrick could. He protested, but she shook her head. You gave me something priceless the other night. Let me buy you dinner. Please. Walking Georgia to her car afterward, a sleek silver Audi, Patrick felt reluctant for the evening to end. She seemed to feel the same way, lingering by the driver's door. I had a really wonderful time tonight, she said. Can we do this again? I'd like that. But Georgia, I should be honest with you. I'm not exactly in a position to date right now. Money is tight, and I have Mia to think about, and I can't do fancy dinners and expensive dates. I don't want you to have the wrong expectations. Georgia stepped closer. Patrick, I don't care about fancy dinners. I have plenty of money. What I don't have is someone who looks at me like I'm a real person instead of a business opportunity or a dollar sign. You gave away something that meant a lot to you to make a stranger happy. That tells me more about who you are than anything else could. If you're willing to see where this goes, I promise I'll be patient. We can take things as slow as you need. Patrick wanted to kiss her. The urge was overwhelming, surprising in its intensity. Instead, he squeezed her hand. I'd like to see where this goes. Georgia's smile was radiant. Good. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that rainy night. You intrigued me, Patrick Matthews. They exchanged numbers, though Patrick had to explain again about his phone being temporarily disconnected. Georgia didn't blink. Then I'll call you at work. Jerry seemed nice when I talked to him. Over the next few weeks, Georgia did exactly that. She'd call the garage during Patrick's lunch break, and they'd talk for 30 minutes about their days, their lives, anything and everything. Jerry teased him mercilessly, but Patrick didn't care. Talking to Georgia became the highlight of his day. They went out again 2 weeks later, to a casual diner that Patrick insisted on because he could actually afford to split the check. Georgia arrived in jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than he'd seen her before. I like this place, she said, looking around at the vinyl booths and checkered floor. It's got character. It's got decent burgers and coffee that could strip paint, which is all I require from a diner. Georgia laughed, and Patrick realized he loved making her laugh. She had a full, genuine laugh that transformed her face from beautiful to radiant. They talked about music, about their childhoods, about dreams they'd had before life got complicated. Georgia confessed that she'd wanted to be a marine biologist before her father got sick and she'd had to leave grad school to take over the company. Do you regret it? Patrick asked. Sometimes. I'm good at what I do, and I've made the company even more successful than my father did. But sometimes I wonder what my life would have looked like if I'd gotten to choose it instead of having it chosen for me. It's not too late. You could still study marine biology, hire someone else to run the company. Maybe, Georgia played with her coffee cup. What about you? Did you always want to be a mechanic? Actually, yes. I love working with my hands, solving problems, making things run. It's satisfying in a way that's hard to explain. The only thing I ever wanted more than working on cars was being a father, so I guess I got lucky in that I'm doing both. You really love being a dad, don't you? It's the best thing I've ever done. The hardest, but the best. Mia is this incredible little person with her own thoughts and opinions and dreams. Watching her grow, being there for all her firsts, it's a privilege. Patrick paused. I know that probably sounds boring to someone who travels the world and runs a major company. It sounds wonderful, Georgia said quietly. It sounds like exactly the kind of life I wish I had more room for in my own. Their third date, Georgia asked if she could meet Mia. Patrick had been dreading and anticipating this question in equal measure. He wanted Georgia to meet his daughter, wanted to integrate her into his real life, but he was also terrified. Mia was everything to him. If she didn't like Georgia, or if Georgia didn't connect with Mia, this couldn't go anywhere. Are you sure? Patrick asked. Kids can be a lot, and Mia has very strong opinions about everything. I'm sure. I want to know all the parts of your life, Patrick. That includes your daughter. They decided on a casual afternoon at the park. Patrick told Mia he had a friend he wanted her to meet. Mia, with her 7-year-old radar, asked approximately 1,000,000 questions. Is this the pretty lady you had dinner with? Yes. Are you boyfriend and girlfriend now? We're friends who are getting to know each other. That's what boyfriend and girlfriend means, Daddy. Patrick couldn't argue with that logic. When Georgia arrived at the park, dressed casually in jeans and a t-shirt, her hair in a ponytail, Mia studied her with the suspicious intensity of a tiny detective. Hi, Mia, Georgia said, kneeling to be at eye level. I'm Georgia. Your dad has told me so much about you. He told me about you too. He says you're pretty. Patrick felt his face heat. Mia, what? You did say that, Georgia laughed. Well, I think you're pretty too. I love your unicorn shirt. Mia looked down at her shirt with pride. Unicorns are my favorite. Do you like unicorns? I do. When I was your age, I had a whole collection of unicorn figurines. Really? What happened to them? I still have them, actually. They're in a box in my closet. I could never bring myself to get rid of them. This answer seemed to satisfy Mia. Do you want to play on the swings? I'd love to. Patrick watched as Georgia and Mia ran to the playground together. He'd worried for nothing. Georgia pushed Mia on the swings, helped her across the monkey bars, and laughed at Mia's elaborate stories about her stuffed animals. They played for over an hour before Mia announced she was hungry. Can Georgia come to dinner with us? Mia asked Patrick, taking his hand, if she wants to. I'd love to, Georgia said, taking Mia's other hand. They went to a pizza place, nothing fancy, and Mia chattered the entire meal about school and her friends and the book series she was reading. Georgia listened attentively, asked follow-up questions, and genuinely seemed interested in what a 7-year-old thought about the world. After dinner, as they walked back to their cars, Mia tugged on Patrick's sleeve. I like her, Daddy. She's nice. Relief flooded through Patrick. Yeah. I like her too. Is she going to be around more? Would that be okay with you? Mia considered this with the seriousness she applied to all major decisions. Yes, but Daddy. Yeah, Bug, you're still my favorite. Patrick scooped her up, kissing her forehead. You're my favorite too. That will never change, no matter what. After he dropped Mia at home with his mother, Patrick called Georgia from the garage landline. She answered immediately. Hey, she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. Thank you for today. Mia is wonderful. She really liked you. Which is a big deal because Mia doesn't like everyone. I really liked her too. She's smart and funny and imaginative. You've done an incredible job with her, Patrick. Thanks. Georgia, I need to be upfront with you about something. Okay, Mia comes first, always. If this thing between us continues, you need to know that she's my priority. I can't promise you weekends away or spontaneous dates. My life revolves around her schedule and her needs. I know that, and I wouldn't want it any other way. The fact that you're such a devoted father is one of the things I find most attractive about you. Patrick felt something in his chest expand. You really mean that? I really do. Patrick, I've dated guys who have all the time and money in the world but no substance. You have something that matters so much more. You have integrity and kindness and this huge capacity for love. That's rare. That's special. I want to kiss you, Patrick said, surprising himself with his boldness. Georgia's breath caught audibly. I want that too. Next time I see you. Promise. Promise. They made plans to see each other again the following weekend. Patrick would take Mia to his mother's for a few hours, giving him and Georgia some time alone. The anticipation made the week crawl by at an agonizing pace. When Saturday finally arrived, Patrick was nervous in a way he hadn't been since high school. He picked Georgia up from her apartment, a beautiful space downtown that probably cost more per month than Patrick made in 6 months. But when she opened the door, wearing a soft blue sweater and jeans, smiling at him like he was the best thing she'd seen all day, the difference in their bank accounts didn't matter at all. They went to an art museum, which had free admission and which Georgia had mentioned wanting to visit. They wandered through exhibits, talking about the paintings, standing close enough that their arms brushed. The tension between them built with each passing minute. Finally, in a quiet gallery with paintings of landscapes, Patrick couldn't wait anymore. He turned to Georgia, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her. She melted against him, her hands coming up to grip his shirt, kissing him back with an intensity that made his head spin. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Patrick rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since the night at the restaurant, he admitted. I've wanted you to do that since the night in the rain when you gave me your ticket, Georgia whispered. You were standing there, completely soaked, offering this incredible kindness to a stranger, and I thought, who is this man? Patrick kissed her again, softer this time, savoring it. I'm just a guy who got lucky enough to meet you. You're so much more than that. They spent the rest of the afternoon together, holding hands, stealing kisses, talking about everything and nothing. Patrick felt like a teenager again, giddy and hopeful in a way he'd forgotten was possible. Over the next 2 months, Patrick and Georgia fell into a rhythm. She'd come over for dinner twice a week, bringing groceries and helping Patrick cook while Mia did homework at the kitchen table. She'd show up at Mia's soccer games, cheering from the sidelines. She'd meet them at the park on Sunday afternoons, bringing a picnic and games. Slowly, carefully, she became woven into the fabric of their lives. Patrick found himself falling for her harder than he'd thought possible. It wasn't just attraction, though he was definitely attracted to her. It was the way she remembered that Mia was allergic to strawberries. It was the way she showed up at the garage with coffee for Patrick during his break. It was the way she fit into his life without trying to change it or make demands he couldn't meet. Mia adored her. One evening, Patrick overheard Mia telling her stuffed animals, and then Georgia is going to come over and we're going to make cookies, and she's really nice, and she makes Daddy smile a lot. That night, after Mia was in bed, Patrick and Georgia sat on his worn couch, her head on his shoulder. Mia told her stuffed animals that you make me smile, Patrick said. Georgia tilted her face up to look at him. Do I? All the time? I didn't realize how serious my life had become until you came into it. You've reminded me how to have fun, how to be something other than just Mia's dad and a mechanic. You've given me so much more than that, Georgia said softly. You've shown me what a real relationship looks like, what it means to be valued for who you are instead of what you can provide. You've introduced me to this incredible little girl who has the biggest heart. You've made me feel like part of something real. Patrick kissed her, long and slow. Things had been heating up between them over the past few weeks, but they'd been taking it slow, partly because of Patrick's complicated schedule and partly because he wanted to be sure. He was sure now. Stay tonight, he whispered against her lips. Georgia pulled back slightly. Are you sure? What about Mia? She's asleep. She sleeps through the night. And Georgia, I'm sure about you. I'm sure about us. They made their way to Patrick's small bedroom, kissing and touching with an urgency that had been building for months. Making love with Georgia was different than Patrick remembered with anyone else. It wasn't just physical. It was connection, understanding, two people who'd found something rare and wanted to hold on to it. Afterward, lying tangled together in Patrick's sheets, Georgia traced patterns on his chest. I'm falling in love with you, she said quietly. I think I've been falling since that night in the rain. Patrick pulled her closer. I'm already in love with you. I have been for weeks. I was just scared to say it. Scared of what? Scared that you'd realize how different our lives are. Scared that you'd wake up one day and decide this is too complicated, that I come with too much baggage. Georgia propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him with fierce intensity. Patrick Matthews, you listen to me. You are not baggage. Mia is not baggage. You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me. I have money and a successful career, but I've been lonely for years. I've been going through the motions, trying to find something that feels real. And then I met you, this incredibly kind man who gave away something precious to help a stranger, and suddenly everything made sense. This is real, we are real, and I'm not going anywhere. Patrick pulled her down for a kiss, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. I love you, Georgia Reynolds. I love you too. The next morning, they made breakfast together. Mia came padding out of her room, rubbing her eyes, and stopped short when she saw Georgia at the stove making pancakes. Georgia, you're here early. Patrick shot Georgia a nervous glance, but Georgia just smiled. I stayed over last night. Is that okay? Mia thought about this. Did you sleep in Daddy's room? I did. Are you boyfriend and girlfriend now, like officially? Patrick knelt down to Mia's level. We are. How do you feel about that? Mia looked between them, then launched herself at Patrick, hugging him tight. I feel good. Georgia is nice and she makes you happy. Can she stay over more? If you're okay with it, then yes, she can. Okay, can we have chocolate chips in the pancakes? Just like that, the awkward conversation was over, replaced by the more important matter of pancake toppings. Patrick and Georgia exchanged relieved smiles over Mia's head. As fall turned to winter, their relationship deepened. Georgia started staying over most nights, arriving after work with her laptop to finish emails while Patrick helped Mia with homework. She kept a drawer at Patrick's house, filled with clothes and toiletries. She had a toothbrush in the bathroom and a coffee mug in the kitchen. Patrick's mother loved her. Jerry loved her. Even Mia's teacher commented on how much happier Mia seemed lately, how she talked about Georgia constantly, but there were challenges too. Patrick struggled with accepting help from Georgia, even when he desperately needed it. When his truck finally died and needed expensive repairs, Georgia offered to pay for it. Patrick refused, taking on extra weekend work instead, which meant less time together. They had their first real fight about it. Why won't you let me help you? Georgia demanded, frustrated after Patrick had turned down her offer to pay for the repairs for the third time. I have the money. It means nothing to me, but it means you wouldn't have to work yourself to exhaustion. Because I need to take care of myself and my daughter, Patrick shot back. I can't just accept handouts every time something goes wrong. It's not a handout. It's your girlfriend wanting to help the man she loves. And what happens if we break up? Then I owe you money, or worse, I've gotten used to relying on you and can't manage on my own anymore. Georgia looked like he'd slapped her. You think we're going to break up? Patrick ran his hands through his hair, immediately regretting his words. No, I don't think that. But Georgia, you have to understand, I've been on my own for 3 years. I've built a life for Mia and me, and it's not fancy, but it's ours. I can't lose that independence. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to let me be part of your life in every way, including the hard parts. You support me emotionally. Let me support you practically sometimes. That's what partners do. They eventually reached a compromise. Patrick would accept help for genuine emergencies, but he'd maintain his independence for everyday expenses. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and they both learned from it. Christmas approached, and Patrick stressed about what to get Georgia. What do you buy for a woman who can afford anything she wants? He settled on something personal, spending hours in his garage crafting a small metal sculpture of a dolphin, knowing her love of marine life. It wasn't fancy, but it was made with his own hands, infused with thought and care. Georgia cried when she opened it on Christmas morning at Patrick's house, Mia bouncing excitedly beside them. Patrick, this is beautiful. You made this. I've been teaching myself metalworking. It's rough, but I thought you might like it. I don't just like it, I love it. It's the most meaningful gift I've ever received. Georgia's gift to Patrick was equally thoughtful. She'd framed the ticket stub from the Silver Echo concert, the one he'd given her, with a photo of them from their first date and an inscription. Where it all began, thank you for the music and everything after. I wanted you to know that I remember, Georgia said. I'll always remember the night I met the man who changed my life. They kissed, while Mia made exaggerated gagging sounds in the background, then laughed when she demanded they open her presents next. It was the best Christmas Patrick had experienced since Amy died. Their small living room was filled with laughter and love, the three of them feeling like a real family. In January, Georgia's father suffered a stroke. She had to fly to Boston immediately to be with him. Patrick drove her to the airport, holding her while she cried in the parking lot. I'm scared, she admitted. He's all the family I have left. He's going to be okay. He's tough like his daughter. Come with me. Patrick wanted to desperately, but Mia had school and he had work he couldn't miss. I can't, baby, but I'm here. Call me anytime, day or night. I love you. I love you too. Georgia was gone for 2 weeks. Her father survived the stroke but needed extensive care and rehabilitation. She called Patrick every day, sometimes crying, sometimes exhausted, sometimes just needing to hear his voice. He talked her through the hard decisions, listened when she needed to vent, and reminded her that she was strong enough to handle this. When she finally came home, thinner and exhausted, Patrick picked her up from the airport and just held her in the parking garage for 10 minutes. I missed you so much, she whispered. I missed you too. How's your dad? Recovering. It's going to be a long road, but he's getting better. Patrick, being away from you was torture. I realized something while I was gone. What's that? I don't want to be away from you and Mia anymore. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to have breakfast with Mia every day. I want this to be permanent. Patrick's heart raced. Georgia, what are you saying? I'm saying I want to move in with you, if you'll have me. Patrick kissed her hard. Yes, God, yes. But my house is small, and you're used to so much more space and luxury. I don't care about space or luxury. I care about being with you. Your house could be a cardboard box, and I'd want to be there if you and Mia were there too. They told Mia that night. Her reaction was to jump up and down screaming with joy, then immediately start planning how Georgia's clothes would fit in the closet, and whether they could get bunk beds so Georgia's daughter could visit. I don't have a daughter, Georgia said, laughing. You could, though. You could have a baby. Then I'd be a big sister. Patrick and Georgia exchanged glances. They hadn't talked about that yet, about future children, about expanding their family. But the look in Georgia's eyes told Patrick it was something she wanted. And surprisingly, Patrick realized it was something he wanted too. The idea of having a child with Georgia, of Mia being a big sister, felt right in a way he hadn't expected. Georgia moved in over the next month. She didn't bring much, wanting to blend into their existing life rather than overtake it. But slowly, the house transformed. There were flowers on the table, new curtains in the living room, and a renovated bathroom that actually had decent water pressure. Patrick insisted on contributing to the renovations, even though Georgia's budget dwarfed his. They found compromises, ways to blend their resources without Patrick feeling like he was losing himself. Life settled into a new normal. Georgia adjusted her work schedule, taking fewer international trips and delegating more responsibility to her executives. She wanted to be present, to attend Mia's school events and have family dinners, and be part of the daily rhythm of their lives. Patrick had never been happier. He'd wake up with Georgia in his arms, make breakfast with her and Mia, go to work knowing he had this incredible life waiting for him at home. It felt like a dream, except it was real and solid and his. On a warm evening in April, Patrick took Georgia to the same park where they'd had their first meeting with Mia. They walked hand in hand while Mia played on the swings with his mother watching nearby. "I want to ask you something," Patrick said, his heart hammering. "Okay." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Georgia, before I met you, I was just going through the motions. I was a good dad, I think, but I'd forgotten how to be anything else. I'd forgotten how to dream, how to hope for more than just getting through each day. And then I met you in the rain, and you looked so devastated, and something in me just knew I had to help you. I had no idea that helping you would end up saving me." "Patrick," Georgia's eyes were already filling with tears, "you've brought joy back into my life. You've loved my daughter like she's your own. You've accepted me exactly as I am, grease stains and tight budget and all. You've made me believe in happily ever after again." Patrick dropped to one knee, pulling out a simple ring he'd bought after 2 months of saving. It wasn't extravagant, but it was real and it was from his heart. "Georgia Reynolds, will you marry me?" Georgia was crying openly now, nodding before she could speak. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Patrick slid the ring onto her finger and stood, kissing her while his mother and Mia cheered from the playground. Mia came running over, launching herself at both of them. "Are you getting married? Am I going to be in the wedding? Can I wear a princess dress?" Patrick laughed, picking Mia up. "Yes, we're getting married. Yes, you're going to be in the wedding. And yes, you can wear a princess dress." Best day ever. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the same park, surrounded by close friends and family. Mia was the flower girl, wearing the princess dress of her dreams. Georgia wore a simple white dress that took Patrick's breath away. He wore the nicest suit he could afford, and when Georgia saw him waiting for her, she cried happy tears. They wrote their own vows. Patrick promised to love Georgia through every challenge, to support her dreams, to never take for granted the gift of her love. Georgia promised to honor the family Patrick had built, to be a partner in every sense, to love him and Mia with her whole heart for all her days. When they kissed as husband and wife, Mia cheered louder than anyone. The reception was at a local restaurant, nothing fancy but filled with warmth and laughter. Patrick's garage, friends mingled with Georgia's business associates, everyone united in celebrating the couple. During their first dance, Georgia whispered in Patrick's ear, "I have a wedding present for you." "You already gave me a wedding present, that ridiculous espresso machine that I still don't know how to use," Georgia laughed. "A different present, I'm pregnant." Patrick stopped dancing, pulling back to look at her face. "What? I found out yesterday. I was going to wait, but I can't keep secrets from you. We're having a baby." Patrick picked her up and spun her around, laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby. Mia's going to be a big sister. Are you happy? I'm ecstatic. Georgia, you've given me everything. A second chance at love, a partner, and now another child. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm going to spend every day trying to be worthy of this life we've built. You already are. You've always been." They told Mia later that night. Her reaction was predictably enthusiastic. "I knew it. I knew Georgia would have a baby. Can we name it Sparkle if it's a girl, or Thunder if it's a boy? We'll consider all options," Georgia said diplomatically, catching Patrick's amused eye. Over the next months, as Georgia's pregnancy progressed, they faced new challenges and joys. Patrick worried constantly about her health, hovering until she gently reminded him that she was perfectly capable of tying her own shoes. They moved to a bigger house, one that Georgia bought, but that Patrick insisted on contributing to the mortgage payments, maintaining his sense of independence while accepting Georgia's greater financial resources. The house was in the same neighborhood, keeping Mia in her school and Patrick close to work. It had 4 bedrooms, a yard for Mia to play in, and a garage where Patrick could continue his metalworking hobby. Mia helped decorate the nursery, picking out yellow paint and animal decorations. She took her role as future big sister seriously, reading parenting books meant for adults and giving Patrick and Georgia advice. "It says here that babies need lots of cuddles," she informed them seriously. "I'm going to be in charge of cuddles." Georgia's pregnancy was healthy but exhausting. She cut back even more on work, focusing on her family. Patrick supported her through morning sickness, strange cravings at 2 a.m, and the emotional ups and downs that came with growing a human. "I look like a whale," Georgia said one evening, staring at herself in the mirror. "You look beautiful. You're growing our child. That's the most amazing thing in the world. You have to say that. You're my husband." "I say it because it's true. You've never been more beautiful to me than you are right now." Georgia turned to him, hormonal tears streaming down her face. "How are you real? How did I get this lucky? I ask myself the same thing about you every single day." Their son was born on a cold December morning, 2 weeks before Christmas. Patrick was there through all 16 hours of labor, holding Georgia's hand, reminding her to breathe, falling even more in love with her as he watched her strength. When the baby finally arrived, screaming and red-faced and perfect, Patrick cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands. They named him Peter, after Patrick's father who had passed away before Mia was born. Mia met her baby brother at the hospital, gentle and awestruck. "He's so tiny," she whispered, touching his small hand with one finger. "Hi, Peter, I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you everything." Watching Georgia hold their son, with Mia curled against her side and Patrick's arms around all of them, Patrick felt a sense of completion he'd never expected to find again. His life had been broken after Amy's death. He'd thought the best he could hope for was to manage, to survive, to give Mia a decent life. But he'd found so much more. He'd found love again, deeper and richer for all the pain that had come before. He'd found a partner who saw him completely and loved him anyway. He'd given Mia a mother figure who adored her, a baby brother to dote on, and a home filled with laughter and security. The first months with Peter were chaotic. Patrick took time off from the garage, using saved vacation days to help at home. Georgia was exhausted but radiant, nursing Peter while Mia entertained them with elaborate puppet shows. They were sleep-deprived and covered in various baby fluids most of the time, but they were happy. Patrick's mother visited constantly, overjoyed to have another grandchild to spoil. Jerry sent a massive gift basket with a card that read, "Can't believe the guy who gave away his concert ticket ended up with all this. You deserve it, man." That concert felt like a lifetime ago. Patrick barely remembered the disappointment of missing the show. All he remembered was seeing Georgia in the rain, devastated and vulnerable, and making a choice to help. That one moment of kindness had cascaded into everything beautiful in his life now. As Peter grew, the family found its rhythm. Mia was an enthusiastic big sister, always wanting to hold her brother or help with feeding time. Georgia balanced motherhood and work, having restructured her company to allow for more remote management. Patrick continued working at the garage, though he'd gotten a raise and was now training new mechanics, a position that came with better pay and regular hours. Money was no longer the constant stress it had been before. Georgia's resources meant they were comfortable, though Patrick still insisted on contributing his share to household expenses. They'd found a balance that respected both his need for independence and the practical reality that Georgia had significantly more wealth. On their first anniversary, Patrick took Georgia back to the concert venue where they'd met. Silver Echo had reunited for one final show, and Patrick had managed to get tickets. "You remembered," Georgia said, tears in her eyes as they stood outside the venue. "How could I forget? This is where my life changed. This is where I met you." Inside, holding hands and swaying to the music, Patrick thought about the journey that had led them here. The grief and struggle, the lonely years, the constant worry. And then one rainy night, one impulsive act of kindness, and everything had transformed. During Weathered Storm, their song, Patrick pulled Georgia close and whispered in her ear, "I love you. Thank you for finding me that night. Thank you for seeing me when I needed it most. Thank you for choosing kindness when you could have walked away. Thank you for being exactly who you are." They kissed as the music swelled around them, two people who had found each other against all odds, who had built something real and lasting from a single moment of connection. At home, Patrick's mother was watching Mia and Peter. When Patrick and Georgia arrived back, they found Mia asleep on the couch and Peter sleeping in his bassinet, both kids peaceful and content. "They were perfect," Susan said, kissing her son's cheek. "You've built a beautiful life, Patrick. Your father would be so proud." After his mother left, Patrick and Georgia checked on the kids, then settled onto their own bed, exhausted but content. "This is everything I never knew I wanted," Georgia said, curled against Patrick's chest. "A family, a home, a partner who sees me. I spent so many years chasing success, thinking that would make me happy. But this, what we have, this is what actually matters. I spent so long just trying to survive," Patrick said, "trying to be enough for Mia, trying to keep us afloat. I never thought I'd find love again, never thought I deserved something this good after losing Amy. But you've shown me that it's possible to have a second chapter, to build something new without forgetting what came before. Do you still miss her? Sometimes, but not in the way I used to. I'll always love Amy and be grateful for the years we had and for Mia. But you're my present and my future, Georgia. You're my choice every single day." Georgia kissed him softly. "And you're mine, you and Mia and Peter, this family we've created, it's everything." Years passed in a blur of school events, birthday parties, family vacations, and quiet evenings at home. Mia grew into a confident teenager, still close with her baby brother despite the age gap. Peter inherited Patrick's curiosity about how things worked, spending hours in the garage with his father, learning about engines and tools. Georgia's company thrived under her restructured management, proving that success and family life weren't mutually exclusive. She was there for dinner most nights, for Peter's first steps and Mia's high school graduation, for all the moments that mattered. Patrick eventually became part owner of the garage, Jerry having offered him a partnership in recognition of his skill and dedication. The financial security allowed Patrick to finally relax, to stop worrying constantly about making ends meet. On their 10th anniversary, Georgia gave Patrick a gift that made him laugh and cry at the same time. It was a scrapbook documenting their entire relationship, starting with a photo someone had taken at the Silver Echo concert the night they met. Georgia was in the crowd, holding Patrick's ticket, joy clear on her face. Somehow she'd tracked down the photo through the venue's social media. Each page showed their journey. Their first official date, the day Georgia met Mia, their wedding, Peter's birth, holidays and vacations and ordinary moments that were extraordinary because they were together. The last page had a photo from the previous week, all four of them at the beach, laughing as a wave crashed over them. Underneath, Georgia had written, 10 years ago, you gave me a ticket to a concert. You gave me so much more than music that night. You gave me hope, love, family, and a future I never dreamed possible. Thank you for being the kindest man I've ever met. Thank you for building this beautiful life with me. Here's to 50 more years of love and laughter and weathering every storm together. I love you always. Georgia. Patrick closed the scrapbook carefully, pulling Georgia into his arms. You know what the crazy thing is? I almost didn't give you that ticket. I stood there arguing with myself, thinking about how much it had cost and how much I'd been looking forward to the concert. What made you do it? Honestly, you looked how I'd felt so many times after Amy died. Completely devastated, like the world was crashing down, and I remembered how much it meant when someone showed me kindness during those times. I just wanted to give you one good thing in what was clearly a terrible day. I had no idea I was giving away a concert ticket and getting back a whole life. Best trade ever, Patrick laughed. Best trade ever. They renewed their vows on their 10th anniversary, wanting to reaffirm their commitment with Peter old enough to understand and participate. Mia, now 17, stood with them as they exchanged promises again, their voices steady and sure. Patrick looked at Georgia, at this woman who had transformed his life with her love, and spoke from his heart. 10 years ago, I gave you a ticket because you needed it. Every day since, you've given me reason after reason to believe in goodness, in second chances, in love that heals and transforms. You've been my partner, my love, my best friend. You've been a mother to Mia and Peter with such grace and devotion. You've shown me that life doesn't end when tragedy strikes. It just changes, and if you're lucky, it changes into something even more beautiful than before. I promise to love you fiercely for the rest of my life, to support your dreams, to be the man you deserve, and to never forget how blessed I am to walk through this life beside you. Georgia's vows were equally heartfelt, speaking of the man who'd showed her what real love looked like, who'd built a family with her, who'd never let wealth or status define their relationship, who valued kindness and integrity above all else. When they kissed, Mia and Peter clapped, as did the gathered friends and family, everyone united in celebrating a love that had beaten the odds. That night, after the celebration ended and the kids were asleep, Patrick and Georgia sat on their back porch, watching fireflies dance in the summer darkness. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if it hadn't rained that night?" Georgia asked. "If I'd gotten into the concert with my fake ticket, if you'd gone in with yours, and we'd never met." "Sometimes. But I think we were meant to find each other. Maybe not that exact way, but somehow. The universe doesn't let people who are supposed to be together miss each other." "That's romantic." "You make me romantic. Before you, I was just a tired, stressed guy trying to keep his head above water. You reminded me how to dream, how to hope, how to believe in magic." Georgia leaned her head on his shoulder. "You gave me everything that matters. Before you, I had success but no real joy. I had money but no purpose. You showed me what it means to be part of something bigger than yourself, to be part of a family, to love and be loved unconditionally." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Inside, their children slept safely, their home filled with the accumulation of 10 years of love and laughter and life. Patrick thought about the struggling single dad he'd been, working double shifts and pinching pennies, wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. He thought about standing in the rain, making the choice to give away something precious because someone else needed it more. That choice had been the best decision of his life. It had led him here, to this moment, to this woman, to this family. It had taught him that kindness isn't just good for the recipient, it's good for the giver too, opening doors to possibilities that might otherwise remain forever closed. "I love you," Patrick said simply, the words inadequate but true. "I love you too," Georgia replied. "Thank you for that rainy night. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for this life. Thank you for saying yes to all of it. The dinner invitation, the relationship, the proposal, the family. Thank you for choosing me." "Always," Georgia promised. "In every version of this story, in every possible timeline, I choose you." They kissed as fireflies danced around them, two people who had found each other in the rain and built something lasting and true. Patrick had learned that giving away what you treasure most sometimes brings you something even more precious in return. He'd given away a concert ticket and received a lifetime of love. As they headed inside, checking on sleeping children one more time before bed, Patrick felt gratitude so deep it was almost overwhelming. His life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still hard days, still moments of stress and worry, but it was beautiful in all the ways that mattered. He had a partner who loved him completely. He had children who were thriving and happy. He had work that satisfied him and a home filled with warmth. He had friends and family who supported him. He had built something meaningful from the ashes of his grief, something Amy would have been proud to see, and it had all started with one choice on one rainy night, to see someone else's pain and choose compassion over self-interest. to give away something precious because someone needed it more. To believe that kindness mattered even when the world felt cruel. Patrick had been that stranger's angel that night, giving Georgia her ticket to the concert. But Georgia had been his angel too, showing up when he needed her most, loving him and Mia with fierce devotion, giving him a second chance at happiness he'd thought was lost forever. They'd saved each other, really. Two broken people finding wholeness together, building a family and a future from one moment of connection. It was the kind of love story that might seem implausible if it wasn't real, if Patrick didn't wake up every morning with proof of its truth lying beside him. As he drifted off to sleep that night, Georgia curled against him. Patrick's last thought was simple gratitude. For the rain, for the concert, for the choice to be kind, for the woman who'd walked into his life and stayed. For every moment that had led them here, to this perfect, complicated, beautiful life they'd created together. The struggling dad who'd given away his concert ticket had found something far more valuable than any show. He'd found his forever, his family, his happily ever after. And that, Patrick thought as sleep claimed him, was the best kind of music anyone could hope to hear.